Today I'm going to cover the distributive properties of polynomials or FOIL when it comes to multiplying. Now, I'm not a super fan of FOIL, but I'm going to show you how to do FOIL and then my method of doing distributive property when you have even more terms to multiply. So let's start with FOIL. FOIL states that we start with first O for outer, I for inner, and L for last. So what does that mean? Let's look at the example here. So we're saying that FOIL is first, so this is our first, so first times first, so x times x gives me x squared, outer, which is the outside two terms, so outer times outer, which is x times -5, which gives us -5x. Inner times inner, which is the two inner terms, so it's 2 times x gives me 2x. And last times last, which are the last two terms. The 2 times the -5 gives me -10. And we're going to simplify. I'm going to bring down my x squared. Now we have 2x terms here, which is 2x minus 5x, which gives me -3x. And I bring down my -10. And that's how we solve this FOIL method. Now, I'm not a super fan of the FOIL method because I find that it's hard to keep track of terms when you have more than 2 terms in each of the parentheses. So I'm going to show you my method, which is very similar to FOIL, but it helps me anyway to keep track of the terms when we're doing our distributive property. So what I do is I look at my first term and multiply it by each of the terms in the next parentheses. So I'm going to do 2 times x, which gives me 2x squared, and then 2 times -1, which gives me -2x. Now I've run out of terms in my second parentheses, so I'm going to look at my next term here, which is the 5. I'm going to take the 5 and multiply it by each of the terms in the next parentheses. I'm going to do 5 times x gives me 5x, and 5 times -1 gives me -5. I'm going to simplify that. That gives me 2x squared. 5x minus 2x gives me +3x minus 5. And that's how we solve this problem. So why do I do this? Well, let's say we have something more complicated. We have, let's say, 3 terms in one of our parentheses. So we have, say, x squared plus 3x minus 1. Okay? So I'm going to take the first term in my first parentheses, which is x, and I'm going to multiply it by each of the terms in the other parentheses. So x times x squared gives me x cubed. X times 3x gives me 3x squared. And x times -1 gives me -x. Then, well, we've used up all our terms in our second parenthesis, so I'm done with my x term. So I'm going to go over to my 3. 3 times x squared gives me 3x squared. 3 times 3x gives me 9x. And 3 times -1 gives me -3. Then let's simplify. X cubed. There's only one x cubed. I sometimes like to put a little check mark there to keep track of what I've used. We have 2x squared terms here, which is 3x squared plus 3x squared. That gives me 6x squared. Mark there. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And then I have 2x terms, which is 9x minus x gives me 8x. And we're left with that -3. And this is how we solve that. Now we can use the same method even if you have more terms in your first parentheses. Just keep track of what we're doing. So I'm first going to look at my first term in the first parentheses and multiply it by each of the terms in the second parentheses. So we have x to the 4th times x squared gives me x to the 6th. Then we have x to the 4th times -1 gives me negative x to the 4th. So we're done with every term in the second parentheses. Let's jump to our next one. We have 2x cubed times x squared, which gives me 2x to the 5. And then we have 2x cubed times -1, which gives me 2x cubed with a negative in front. So again, we're done with all our terms in the second parentheses. Let's go to our next term, which is x. X times x squared gives me x cubed. X times -1 gives me negative x. Again, we're done with all the terms in our second parentheses, and we're left with that -1 there. So we're going to do 1 times x squared gives me x squared. 1 times -1 gives me -1. Now let's simplify. So we only have 1 x to the power 6. So we have done that. And then we only have one term of 2x to the power 5. We've used that. We have only one term of x to the power 4. Use that. Now we have two terms of x to the power of 3. So we have -2x cubed plus x cubed. So we're left with -x cubed. And we have 1x squared term plus x squared. Use that. Minus x minus 1. And that's how we solve it by a FOIL-ish method. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I offer tutoring services as well as notes for sale. Links down below. Thank you for joining me, and I hope this session helped.